Today we are going to review how to solve one-step equations. This is review. You did this in 6th grade. You did it in 7th grade, so this is going to be familiar to you. We're just going to review the steps so that we can get ready for the two-step and the multi-step equations that are coming. The 3 rules you need to remember. First thing is that your goal is to isolate the variable. Isolate means to get alone. So we want the variable all by itself. Our goal is to have x equals something, y equals something. The second thing you need to remember is that we are going to use inverse operations. Inverse operations are operations that undo each other. So subtraction is the inverse operation of addition. Division is the inverse operation of multiplication. And the last thing we need to remember is to use the golden rule. And the golden rule of equations is that whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you do to the other. Okay? So let's review this. We have x plus 4 equals 10. I find my variable, x, that's what I want to isolate. This plus 4 is in the way. What is the inverse operation to plus 4? I'm going to subtract 4. The golden rule of equations says whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So I subtracted 4 from the left. I'm going to subtract 4 from the right. We bring down our x. That's our goal. We want to isolate x. Plus 4 minus 4 is 0. And if it's x plus 0, we don't write it. So that goes away. That becomes 0. Don't forget to bring down your equal sign. Your equal sign should always come down with you. And 10 minus 4 is 6. Now these are simple, but yes, I want to see this work. I want to see this one step. We are going to get into some complicated equations and we need to be in good habits. So even if it's something you can do in your head, for these I want you to show your step. Okay? Now, keep in mind that we can check an equation. We can take this 6 and we can plug it in for x, and we can see that 6 plus 4 does in fact equal 10. We're not going to check every time, but we can check. So we can make 100 on an equation test because we can check every answer. All right, next one. T plus 9 equals negative 5. Find your variable. That's what we're trying to isolate. I need to remove this plus 9, so I'm going to use the inverse operation by subtracting 9. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. My t comes down. Plus 9 minus 9 becomes 0. I don't have to write it. Don't forget your equal sign. And negative 5 minus 9. You can use your calculator. You can use your number line. Negative 9 minus 5, I get negative 14. So my answer is t equals negative 14. I want your answer to have your variable, the equal sign, and the answer, all 3 parts, okay? We could check this. If we take this negative 14 and plug it in for t, negative 14 plus 9 is in fact negative 5. Now, let's look at some that are very similar, but our inverse operation this time is going to be addition. So I have u minus 3 equals 6. I'm trying to isolate u. I need to get rid of this minus 3. The inverse operation to subtract 3 is add 3. My golden rule of equations, whatever I do to one side of the equation, I do to the other. My u comes down. Negative 3 minus 3, those are opposites, so that becomes 0. Bring down your equal sign. 6 plus 3 is 9. Now this one over here, sometimes this causes people grief. They don't like this variable over here on the right. You can rewrite it, but you don't have to. Just keep in mind, b is what we're trying to isolate. So what are we trying to get rid of? The minus 30. The inverse operation to subtract 30 would be add 30. Whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Negative 70 plus 30, feel free to use your calculator. We should get negative 40 equals, bring down your b, minus 30 plus 30, those are opposites, that becomes 0. Here are 4 problems I want you to try on your own. I want you to pause the video. I want you to work these problems, see what you get, then turn the video back on. I will have them worked out. You can check your work and correct it. So right now, pause the video. How'd you do? I got x equals 5, z equals -8, a equals 13, b equals 11. If you didn't get those, see if you can find your mistake. If you don't understand why you missed it, this would be a good time to pause the video and ask for help. Also make sure that your work looks like this. Make sure you're showing your step, and if you have any corrections to do, make them. This next type of solving, this next type of one-step equation is everybody's favorite. Everybody does so good at these. They like these. They don't have to worry too much about these. These show up in almost every problem, even when we get to the big, ugly multi-step equations. Okay? So let's look right here. I've got 5c. What does that mean? That means 5 times c, right? When it's written side by side with nothing in between, that's multiplication. So what's the inverse operation to multiplication? The inverse operation is division. I'm going to divide both sides by c, but there's a particular way you have to show this. You do not want to use the division symbol in an algebra problem, okay? That is more arithmetic, that's more baby math. Do not use the division symbol. We're going to show division using the fraction bar. So since it's 5 times c, I'm going to divide both sides by 5, okay? Now, what happens to 5 divided by 5? 5 divided by 5 cancels, it becomes 1. All right, so I'm left with 1c, which is just c. We don't have to write that 1. Then negative 15 divided by 5, the signs are different, so my answer is negative. 15 divided by 5 is 3. We could check this. If we take this negative 3 and plug it in, 5 times negative 3 is in fact negative 15. Don't forget that you can check your answers, okay? Next one, 54 equals 9x. Find your variable. I'm trying to isolate x. It's 9 times x, so my inverse operation, I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1, so 1x is just x, and 54 divided by 9 is 6. That's how you solve an equation using division. Now, when you solve an equation using multiplication, this sometimes confuses people. I think it just looks weird. Look at this right here. It looks like a fraction, but remember that the fraction bar is a division bar. This is you divided by 4. So what's the inverse operation to division? The inverse operation to division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. But we need to be careful how we show it. This will be shown out to the side. We won't go underneath for this. We also won't use the times symbol. We won't use the little x for times because that will get confusing in an equation that uses variables. Okay? So we say times 4 times 4. Notice how I went to the side. Now this is 4 over 1. I've got a 4 in the numerator and a 4 in the denominator. Those become 1. They cancel. So 1u is just u, and 6 times 4 is 24. I could check this. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Here, I've got y divided by negative 10 equals 7. I'm trying to isolate y. This is division. My inverse operation is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 10. Remember, this is over 1. So in the numerator and the denominator, they cancel. It becomes 1. Negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1. 1y is just y. 10 times negative 7, 7 times negative 10 is negative 70. So I've done 2 examples of using division, 2 examples of solving using multiplication. You pause the video and you try these 4 at the bottom. Use your examples to help you. Did you get them all right? X equals 9, B equals 19, X equals 35, Q equals negative 77. If you didn't, correct your work. If you don't understand, ask for help, and make sure your work looks like this. Last type of problem. These look a little scarier because there's a fraction involved, but it's really not bad. It's not going to be too ugly. Just remember how you take care of a fractional coefficient. That's a fraction in front of a variable. Now, this is 4/9 x. That's multiplication. 4/9 times x. What's the inverse operation to multiplication? Division. So we could say divide by 4/9, divide by 4/9. But think back to your fraction operations. When you divide by a fraction, what do you really do? You multiply by the reciprocal. So here's the rule for a fractional coefficient. You're going to multiply both sides, of the equation by the reciprocal. Now, does anyone remember the non-mathy word for the reciprocal of the fraction? You're going to flip the fraction, okay? So look at the first one, 4/9 x. We're trying to get rid of the 4/9, so we're going to flip it and we're going to multiply both sides by 9/4. And this is how you're going to show it. Show it out to the side. Now, the 4's cancel, the 9's cancel, that becomes 1x, or x. Remember how to multiply a whole number by a fraction? Put it over 1. 4 goes into 4 one time, 4 goes into 16 4 times. Negative 4 times 9 is negative 36. See, that wasn't all that bad, was it? Looks scary, looks ugly when we do it, but we got a nice number. Now look at the next one. Negative 7/12 x equals 28. Take your fraction. You're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, so we're going to multiply both sides by negative 12/7. A number times it, or a fraction times its reciprocal is 1. 1x is x. Put that 28 over 1. See what cancels. 4 times negative 12 is negative 48. Let's do one more. Oh no, this is two fractions. Find your variable. There's x. The fraction I need to flip or take the reciprocal of is negative 2/3. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3/2. Okay? A fraction times its reciprocal is 1. 1x is x. I look and I see, let's see, my 2 goes into my 6. My 3 and my 7 don't cancel, but let's look. Multiply the numerators. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Multiply my denominators. 7 times 1 is 7, and we got a fractional answer. That's okay. Just leave it alone. Don't let it scare you. That's a fine answer. Now, I've given you 3 here to try. You try them, see how you do, pause the video, then turn it back on to check your work. Those were a little tougher, but did you get them? Did you get x equals 54, x equals negative 48, and x equals negative 9/10? If you didn't, fix your work. If you don't understand what you missed, get some help. And when you finish the video, let Miss Gibbs see your notes, and then you'll get your practice.